It seems that the
Good to be with you,
goal
Laura.
of this crowd is to kind of create the same panic about climate change that they successfully created around COVID. Do I have this wrong?
No, you have it correct. I mean, first of all, we have to accept the World Economic Forum is a fanatical political organization that uses fear and manipulation like COVID hysteria, like the hoax of global warming, to really facilitate people thinking that somehow they're the saviors, but really all you're doing is helping them accomplish their goal, which really is a global public-private fascist movement and fusion of big government, big tech, big money to create a technocratic ruling elite, which conveniently is them. And really, Laura, if you want to look at a different way, too, with the World Economic Forum, they want to create feudalism 2.0, in which we are serfs and they are the lords ruling over us. You'll have nothing and be happy is one of the things that comes out of Davos. That's what they're aiming for. They're aiming for feudalism in which we are serfs and we should be happy that they are ruling over us.
So you see, folks, even the mainstream is now being forced into a situation where they've got to tell the truth. I mean, you know, as I said months ago, you're going to see people in the mainstream who've been supporting the lie, who, you know, the penny's going to drop eventually and they're going to click and realise that, hang on, I'm being controlled by this grid as well. You know, what they're bringing in, nobody is going to be safe from. Not bankers, not world leaders, not media personalities, not politicians, not anyone is going to be safe from the system that they're bringing in. Once it comes online and AI takes over and AI dictates who can or can't do whatever, then, you know, it's going to affect everybody. So I said a couple of years ago, you're going to see media personalities and organisations breaking ranks and coming out and speaking the truth because they're going to realise how much this affects them as well. But of course it's twofold. That isn't the only reason that they're doing it. And it's coming out in a lot of places. There was a full-page report in the Australian newspaper. And for those people overseas, the Australian is a really big publication in Australia, folks. The Weekend Australian is probably the most sold and most popular newspaper in Australia. Pretty well every household gets it. And they've had some pretty remarkable articles in there, basically hanging Fauci out to dry and saying all sorts of stuff. There was a report that even came out in the Weekend Australian that said that the government had suppressed over 4,000 factual reports on damage that was being done through the vaccine. Some of the stuff that we were saying that they called conspiracy theories, it's all been proven to be correct, and the government censored over 4,000 articles to that effect. And that's pretty remarkable, folks, that they would be saying that. But of course, as I said, I mean, they're saying it because they want to get themselves off the hook as well, because ultimately it wasn't just the governments who censored the articles, it was the media stations that censored the articles as well, the media establishments. You know, if the media took down an article, like if the Australian or some website or some newspaper, somebody took down an article or censored an article because the government told them to, the very fact that the government told them to do that should have been reason enough for them to keep the article up there, because the media was actually constructed to be the watchdog of government, not someone who does what the government tells them to do. But of course, all that has changed in the last few years. And we know that that's what they've done. I mean, there were gag orders put on the media years ago. But this is twofold, folks. You see, the system is breaking down, the narrative is breaking down. They're not going to get away with what they want to get away with. I mean, a lot of people think, oh, it's too far gone. And I've often suggested, yeah, find ways of going grey, absolutely. Prepare for the worst, but hope for the best, and don't stop pushing back. As soon as you stop pushing back and, you know, concede defeat, then we've lost. You know, there might be a chance that we lose if we get into the fight, but if we don't get into the fight, then we definitely lose. So what do you choose to do, folks? That's the thing. But the media is doing this as well because they want us to have some confidence in the media. And really, when you look at what's happened over the last 3.5 to 4 years, all of this stuff has been a result of the media, even more than the politicians. I mean, the politicians have done terrible stuff, of course. They've done terrible things. Not just the politicians, but that which sits behind the politicians as well. The bankers, the ruling hand in all aspects of all countries have all done terrible things. But it's the media who has sold the lie to the people. You know, even when you go back to things such as the Nuremberg trials, and I know a lot of people will be triggered even by the word Nuremberg, which is just incredible. But even in the Nuremberg trials, it was established that among all war crimes, the propaganda of war is the worst of all war crimes, because it is the propaganda of war which enables all of the other war crimes to be carried out. It's the media's failure to actually report the truth on what's going on. You know, what they call the fog of war. The first casualty in war is the truth. And it's the media pushing the agenda for the controlling hand in every one of these situations, which allows the war crimes to continue. You know, if you're someone who believes the official narrative of World War II, personally I don't, but if that was happening, it was because the media wasn't reporting the crimes. In all situations, some of the things that happened in Serbia and Bosnia, and some of the stuff that happened in Rwanda, some of the stuff that's happened to so many atrocities around the world, Nicaragua, I mean, so many places that the governments have been involved in. Look what happened in Syria, look what happened in Lebanon, look what happened in all of these places, look what happened in Vietnam. You know, all because the media was selling the propaganda of war, and that's what allowed all of these atrocities to be carried out. In regard to COVID, and in regard to the scamdemic and all the shit that we've just been through, and hundreds of thousands of people in Australia alone that have been injured from the jab, and people are still continuing to die and drop off all around the world. All of this has been enabled by the media, by their failure to report the truth. So now they're trying to cover their backs a little bit and pretend that they are a truthful organisation, and they come out and they're telling us stuff that we already knew, stuff that we've been saying since the beginning of this pandemic, that they've been ridiculing us and vilifying us and attacking us and belittling us and doing everything they can to destroy our lives for reporting this. Now they're coming out and they're saying aspects of it themselves. Of course, not all of it. They're still pushing the concept that COVID is real. They're still pushing the concept that it was very likely cooked up in a biolab in China and all this sort of stuff. No, COVID is not real. The bioweapon is the injection that they're giving people and calling a vaccine. You know, there's a lot of stuff coming out about this, folks, and there has been for years, and there's a lot of stuff to reveal. This is actually what's going on. So they're trying to cover themselves. They're trying to cover their asses. But they're giving you aspects of the truth, maybe 85–90% of the truth, but then they're misdirecting you at the final moment by making you think that COVID was real, that it was a bioweapon, and that they just sort of got it wrong with the jab. No, they got it right with the jab. They've been planning to do this for a long time. I've been talking about this for 10 years, over 10 years. So many people have been talking about the fact that they intend to use vaccines to administer a bioweapon, to carry out a depopulation plan. Dr. Rima Laibo, there's been so many people that have talked about this. This is stuff I had in my first film in 2008, talking of their intention to do this and to use food as a weapon and all the stuff that they've done. And using food as a weapon, I'm not saying they're going to poison the food, although they've done a pretty good job of that as well, but using marginalisation of populations, you know, withholding food from people, breaking down the supply chain, like they've done. All of this stuff has been long predicted, folks, and like I said, the media's coming out and they're giving you enough information to make you feel like the pressure's being released, but they're still misdirecting people at the last moment. They're still pushing the concept of climate change and all of this sort of crap. And climate change is a complete hoax, folks. Climate change is being driven by our governments, it's being driven by big business, the concept of it anyway. And all of the problems we face are all being driven by government and big business. You know, on my last report, I opened the report with an interview, a short part of an interview with a lady who used to work on the wind farms, work on legislation for the wind farms. And what she revealed was incredibly significant, folks. I'm going to actually play it for you again here. It's like 3 minutes. So just in case you missed the last show, or in case this didn't sink in properly, listen to what this lady is saying and let it really sink in.
Now, you used to work for the federal government. I did, yeah, for 7 years.
Doing what?
I was policy advisor for a Liberal Party senator. The area that I was working in was renewable energy, and basically it was my job to uncover a lot of the stuff that was going on with the Renewable Energy Act, which was put in 2002 under the Howard government. So that was the Liberal Party put the act in place, and I was looking at the mess that it had created. And what a lot of people don't understand is that the Renewable Energy Act creates a subsidy environment where if you build wind turbines, you're paid between $600,000 and $900,000 per turbine per year as a subsidy alone.
Well, if it's on your property.
No. So what happens is the wind company comes in and they pay a lease to the farmer to build the wind turbines, and that in effect makes sure that the farmer is still liable for the turbine.
Okay.
And they pay a lease of $12,000 a year, usually, and the company gets paid between $600,000 and $900,000 per turbine per year.
So they pay $12,000 to the farmer, but they get $600,000
Exactly.
per turbine,
Yeah.
which is a big incentive to put in turbines.
Yeah, and the landowner takes the liability for the turbine.
So he gets $12,000 a year, but if anything happens to it, he's got to fix it, or she's got to fix it.
Yeah, when they catch on fire,
Yeah.
they're responsible for their neighbours' properties going up in smoke. That kind of thing.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
And effectively that money, the subsidy that's getting paid to the wind farms, is reaming $40 billion a year out of the Australian economy. And it's paid by everyone, every pensioner, householder, schools, hospitals, everyone. It's not just out of your tax, it comes out of your power bill.
Is this why power bills are going up?
Yeah. That's why
So
power
our
bills.
power bills are going up to pay for wind turbines that don't work.
Exactly.
And why don't they work?
So they don't work because, for a start, they draw power off the grid, so they have to have coal-fired power in order to turn. They're not windmills, they're turbines. And essentially...
Sorry, what do you mean? The power to turn. So when we see them turning, that's not the wind, that's the power generator turning.
Essentially, they have to draw power off the grid, so they have to draw coal-fired power off the grid in order to turn. And what happens when the wind picks up, they do actually start to create electricity of their own, but that electricity is so intermittent and unreliable, when it gets back to the grid, it has to be balanced on the grid, which you can't do. And like with your coal-fired power station, you can't ramp your coal-fired power stations up and down. So the coal-fired power station stays at the same level because it takes 24 to 48 hours for them to get up to heat anyway, and they just let off steam as the wind comes onto the grid. So there's absolutely nothing about them that works apart from reaming that amount of money out of the Australian economy, and it's going offshore.
That money's going offshore.
And that's remarkable, folks. That's absolutely remarkable. These wind farms are coal-powered. They're electrical wind farms. These are turbines, they're not windmills. And you look at them, how could we ever have thought that they were windmills? Well, you've got these three thin little blades sticking up. If they were really supposed to be there to catch wind to provide electricity, wouldn't there be a whole bunch of blades? I mean, look at how a windmill works. You know, an actual windmill that's used as a mill. They used to use them for grinding stone, for grinding wheat, for grinding whatever. They had big grinding stones, big mill stones set up inside the windmill, and it would turn through the wind power. And they would have multiple blades, and they would be thick, wide blades designed to catch the wind. These wind farms, they've got these three blades. They're not designed to catch the wind at all. They're just there using electricity. This is what they do, folks. They tell you that these are for electricity, but they're not. They go out, they purchase farmland that can now not be used for farming or grazing or anything like that because it's got a wind farm on it. They put in these huge turbines which suck power from the grid. That's all they do, is suck power from the grid. The wind turbine companies get between $600,000 and $900,000 per windmill, per turbine. On a wind farm, they might have 20 or 30 or 40 or 50 of them on one person's property. That person gets $12,000 for having them on the property. These guys get $600,000 to $900,000 per turbine, and all they are doing is drawing electricity from the grid. And if they ever start going fast enough to produce electricity, Well, as she said, it's so unstable and so unbalanced that they can't use it. And if it goes back onto the grid, it's going to create instability, because a coal-fired power station, electrical power, when you get electrical power to your house, it's got to be stable. You can't be ramping it up and down all the time. You get dropouts and things blowing up. And the electricity supply in all of our homes has to be stable. When it's not stable, we run into all sorts of electrical problems. So of course it takes 48 hours to get the power station up and running. Once it's stable, they want to keep it stable. So if power comes in off the wind farms, the only thing they can do to keep it stable is to let off steam in the power station so the current remains constant. They can't use it at all. I mean, what are they going to do? Like reroute it somewhere else to a big jar that they keep the spare electricity in? Think about how this works, folks. So these things do absolutely nothing except drain massive amounts of power off the grid that you all pay for with your electricity bill, and they funnel $40 billion a year offshore. And this is happening in every single country that is running these wind farms. And the more they're talking about shutting down coal-fired power stations, the harder the electricity supply is going to be to maintain, because of course these wind farms, they're going to be putting up more and more wind farms, the more coal-fired power stations they shut down, and eventually they'll just have enough coal-fired power stations to run the wind farms, and they'll be trickling energy out to you and telling you that it's your fault because you use too many plastic bags. This is a scam, folks. This is like the mafia has got nothing on what our government is doing with this wind farm situation. This is the biggest scam, and this is what is driving the climate change agenda. And if your government has wind farms on land in your country, this is what they are doing. Think about it and let that really sink in. We live in a really crazy world, folks, a world where they could actually get away with this just by the control of information. And again, the media should have reported on this. I mean, if this one woman can just come out and say this, and then there's people like me can just look at this and figure out what's going on and report on it, why can't the media report on it? I mean, this interview exists. Have they ever looked into wind farms, or do they just do what the government tells them to do and say what the government tells them to say? Of course, folks, that's all they do, and that's why they're trying to cover their asses now by releasing select information. Like I said, they'll give you 85–90% of the truth, but then they'll misdirect you. They'll tell you COVID's a bioweapon. They'll tell you the government just messed up and the vaccine companies just messed up. Sure, they'll hang someone like Fauci out to dry, perhaps hang a couple of Australian ministers out to dry, health ministers or whatever, perhaps in your country as well. I mean, theatre for the masses, folks. It's all the one thing, and they knew exactly what they were doing right from the very beginning. But it's a crazy world, folks. I mean, what do? We've reached a world that has gone so completely off track and so completely crazy that you can see billboards like this. A world so crazy that there's a man in Japan who spent $22,000, because of course we've all got to know what our gender is, folks. We've all got to be respectful of gender and respectful of what other people believe their gender to be.
How many genders are there?
2.
And they are?
Male, female.
But what about someone's right to tell you what their gender is?
No problem at all. So it's you're going to tell me what your gender is, but in this less fucked world, I don't have to believe it. But I'm thrilled for you. You're a lampshade. I'm so happy. Let me put a light bulb up your arse. Brilliant. Don't require me to think what you think.
Yeah, what she said. But anyway, there's a guy in Japan who's just spent $22,000 to identify as a collie dog. Yeah, this is the world that we've got, folks. We've got a world where a woman was thrown out of a store for dressing like this. Admittedly, it's a little bit risque. She was kind of quite revealing there. But again, in the same world and in the same society, you can't have a woman dressed like this, but you can have a man walk down the street dressed like this. This is the type of world we've got, folks. It's completely and utterly ridiculous what everything has become. Yeah, and that's just the type of world we live in. The type of world now where in Holland you can buy new penis fluffy toys for your children.
Wat heb jij nou in je handen?
Tja, het is weer eens wat anders dan een South Park poppetje of lullige knuffelbeer. De pluizige piemel is helemaal hot op de Tilburgse kermis.
Had u die knuffels al gezien?
Jazeker.
Vindt u ervan?
Zelfs al geprobeerd te winnen.
Nou, u gaat ook proberen om een pluizige piemel te pakken.
Ik wel.
Waarom?
Ik vind het gewoon leuk.
Kleine pikkies of groot geschapen, alles ligt de bezoekers open en bloot aan te staren.
Jij gaat ervoor.
Ja, mooi ding.
Ja, waarom?
Ja, geen idee. Ziet er gewoon grappig uit. Het is een beetje lullig om daar een opmerking over te maken. Altijd leuk, toch?
Vind je er zelf niet heen?
Nee, dat hoeft niet hoor. Ik heb er thuis heen.
Ja, het is het jaar van de piemels lijkt het wel. Iedereen is in één keer tevreden met een lullig prijsje. Maar het is gewoon niet aan te slepen.
Wil je nog een leuke knuffel?
Nee. Dat is een penis?
Ja, dat is het. Wil nog niet helemaal lukken, geloof ik.
Jawel. We hebben er al één. Hoort bij de seksuele opvoeding toch?
Ja. Waarom?
Ja, waarom niet? Het is leuk, het is grappig.
Ja, ze zijn op TikTok zijn ze gewoon bekend en ik zag ze en ik wou ze gewoon hebben.
Ik denk als mensen daar eenmaal één mee hebben zien lopen, dan willen ze ze allemaal of zo. Dat is met heel veel knuffels zo, maar dat is met die ook zo.
En wat ga je ermee doen dan thuis?
Ik denk aan ons moeder geven.
Dat ze leuk vinden.
Dat zal ze heel leuk vinden, ja, denk het wel.
Nou, hoe blij ben je?
Heel blij!
That's just wonderful stuff that you want to see for your kids, folks. That's the sort of world we live in. We live in a world where, because there was a transgender woman and won the Miss Universe contest in Netherlands, Italy decided they would ban anybody who was not born a woman from the Miss Universe contest in Italy. And in response to that, you've had 100, at last count, 100 or more than 100 transgender men apply for a role, apply to join Miss Universe in Italy, because they're saying, well, we were born women, we were assigned women at birth. So just because we look like men now, we're going to apply for the contest because we want to clog up the application process. I mean, this is the type of world we've got, folks. The type of world where you've got this complete idiot in Australia saying she wants to ban all leather from all government or anything to do with government, anything to do with national whatever, So ban all leather. And the council, the Sydney City Council, approved the decision that they should ban all leather from anything to do with the government, which means they're going to ban leather from, leather jackets and leather shoes and leather footballs and, the sports world. I mean, ban leather from everything, ban fur and leather from everything. Of course, they made the decision while sitting on very comfortable leather chairs in Parliament. So this is how stupid the world has become, folks. People, and of course this idiot thinks she's doing it because of climate change. And climate change, it's not just global warming anymore, folks. Now it's global boiling.
And for scientists, it is unequivocal. Humans are to blame. All this is entirely consistent with predictions and repeated warnings. The only surprise is the speed of the change. Climate change is here, it is terrifying, and it is just the beginning. The era of global warming has ended, the era of global boiling has arrived. The air is unbreathable, the heat is unbearable, and the level of fossil fuel profits and climate inaction is unacceptable. Leaders must lead.
Yeah, global boiling, folks. I mean, what do you say? It's just incredible. But that's the world, folks. That's the world we live in. And everybody's so divided that no one can see it. And that's a lot of what all this LGBTQ stuff's been about, folks. Like, find out the most weirdest things you can about people so you can keep them divided among everything, keep them divided with not just race and religion and sex, but really with sex, I mean really with gender now as well. So split sex into hundreds of different components and keep them divided with that and make them believe all sorts of things, make them believe they're a collie dog. And people actually go along with it, folks. It's absolutely incredible. And the religions are so messed up. I'm sorry, folks. I mean, if you're out there and you're a religious person, I've never met anybody from any religion, doesn't matter whether you're Christian, Muslim, Jewish, I've never met anybody who actually follows their faith. Maybe some Jews do, maybe some Muslims do. I've never actually met a real Christian. I've never met anybody who actually follows the path that Christ showed them. You know, and there's no difference between the religions anyway. All of this talk of, you know, Judeo-Christian, this is ridiculous because the Jews hate the Christians. You can't even display any form of Christianity in Israel.
It's really big and it's inappropriate for this place, okay? That's not a Jewish place, you need to respect the place. Can you please put it inside?
Okay, this is very harsh. It's very harsh. No, you're not respecting.
Can you please stop taking pictures?
You're not respecting. You're hindering me from my human right to. No, this is not provocation. I'm an abbot. This is my dress. This is how I'm dressed.
I didn't tell you to do something with your dress code. I told you to do something with your cross.
The cross is part of my dress code. I'm a Roman Catholic abbot. This is how I dress. So you want from me that I'm not dressed as my faith tells me how I should dress.
I mean, just recently, a few years ago, they destroyed the church that apparently Jesus went to or something, or some particularly significant historical church founded by him or something. I don't know, folks. I mean, I'm not a religious person, but there was a really significant church in Bethlehem or in Jerusalem. And a few years ago, it was trashed and burnt by Jews, you know, and they don't care about Christians. So what is all this Judeo-Christian rubbish?
עכשיו, הגויים השם, כן? אלוקים עשה אותם בשביל שיעשו פה...
בשביל לשרת את היהודים. כל הגויים שאתה רואה שיש בעולם, המיליארדים האלה, הם הכל רק בשביל שהיהודים יהיה להם איזה תועלת.
עכשיו,
אנחנו לא רואים את זה, אנחנו לא יודעים בדיוק.
כן, היות ואנחנו בגלות, אז אוטומטי עדיין הם עוד לא משרתים אותנו לגמרי, רק חלקית.
כל אחד יהיה לו, כשמשיח יבוא, אז כל אחד יהיה לו אלפים עבדים, 2,800 עבדים.
בינתיים המשיח לא כאן, אז איך הם משרתים אותנו?
הם בונים לנו רכבים, דירות, בניינים, הם בונים את זה לנו, משרתים את היהודים.
אבל יש גם יהודים שעושים את זה.
Yeah, they don't care about Christians at all. And when you look at Islam and Christianity, there's virtually no difference. The only difference is that the Christians think Christ was the Son of God, and the Islamists believe he was a prophet, the same as Muhammad. That's the only difference in the religion. And even the name for God is the same. When you look at the language Jesus spoke, apparently, well, you know, it's all the same thing, folks.
Christians don't even know that Jesus spoke Aramaic. Type in language of Jesus Christ. Do it right now on Google. So what was the language? There it pops up. Aramaic. Now the language is a Semitic language. The Semitic languages are Hebrew, Arabic, and Aramaic. Now I want you to type this in. Aramaic, word for God, and watch what pops up. Allah. Oh, Jesus Christ in his own language called God Ilah. So in Hebrew it's Elohim or Ilah. In Arabic, it's Allah. It's a word that's the same in 3 languages. It's not a name. Al means the, La means God. It's the same word in the language of Jesus Christ. Muslims and Christians and Jews are brothers, they're cousins. The fact that they fight each other is a disgrace. That's called ignorance.
Yeah, you know, people have just been taught to be divided on all aspects. You know, believe that if they adhere to the guidelines of these institutions, they'll somehow be saved. Believe if they baptize their children, they'll somehow be saved. I remember getting baptized when I was a kid. They came and they poured a little bit of water over my forehead. What's baptism look like in 2023? Yeah, that seems like a traumatic enough experience for a child. It should destroy his depiction of just about everything and what he is everything, and put a lifelong fear of water into his mind for all of his life. Who knows, folks? But I've never seen a baptism like that before. I mean, that's tantamount to child abuse. It's incredible, absolutely incredible, folks, what they put kids through these days. And the kids are really being messed up, folks, really, really badly. I mean, I said years ago to keep your kids away from these scrying mirrors, keep them away from all of this virtual reality that's being pushed on them. And the damage that it's doing to them, folks, is ridiculous. Now you've got kids scrolling cell phones in their sleep. Just horrendous stuff that's being done to the minds of the children due to our failure to pay attention. Yeah, it's shocking to see that sort of stuff, folks, and like I said, you know, you can blame the system, you can blame the Jesuits or the Jews or the Freemasons or the control grid or technocracy or anything you want, blame the World Economic Forum, but ultimately it's the parents' fault. It's the parents that have done this, and admittedly the parents were programmed into doing it, but it's shocking to see this sort of thing happening. It really is. It's very sobering to see what's being done to the minds of the children, because the children are our future in all aspects, folks, and everything they're doing to kill off the older generation. As I said to you before, the kids that are growing up into this system are going to have no reference point for what freedom looks like, and looking at what you just saw in that video, they're going to have no reference point for what reality even looks like if we don't pay attention and start taking the matter in hand. And we can do this, we got this. You know, all you've got to do is become free, folks. Realise what you are. I mean, the system is being laid so bare. This is virtually a collapse of the system, collapse of the control grid, a collapse of the paradigm. It's all being revealed for what it was. There's even reports coming out now that, oh look, scientists have discovered that they can get energy from the air, from the atmosphere. Oh well, gee, we were telling you this 15, 20 years ago, you can get energy from the atmosphere. Of course, they're going about it the wrong way, but they're having to admit that we live in an electrical universe and all of the energy around us, all the air around us is charged. It's all charged with electricity. We're electrical beings. We feed off that force. That's why I question if we even need food. I mean, you know, if we were of the right mindset, I think we'd only need food in order to balance ourselves and as medicines. I think we could actually live off the ether. Of course, I don't think we could do it in this world. But, you know, in the right world, if you look at some of the old texts like the Vedas and the Vimanaka Shastra and stuff like that, even the flying machines that they talk about having back in the old days of India, and there's so many reports of this, folks, all through Indian text, through the Vedas, through the Vimanaka Shastra. The Vimanaka Shastra is actually a book which basically, it's like a flight manual, it's like a pilot's handbook. There's nothing spiritual in there, it's basically telling you how to operate flying craft, how to navigate in flocks of birds, what sort of clothing you've got to wear, what sort of food you've got to eat, what sort of mindset you've got to be in order to operate the flying machine. Interesting text, folks, but you know, I just wonder whether we even need any type of food at all. It's interesting that there weren't any toilets in a lot of the old buildings, you know, what we're calling Tartarian buildings. Some of the big old hotels and things through Europe only had toilets put in there at the turn of the last century. Before that, they didn't have any, which is kind of remarkable. So, a bit of noise over here with some sort of power tool, maybe the leaf blower, who knows, folks, it might be coming out. But, yeah, discovered electricity from the air. I mean, everything that we were saying has now been proven to be true. All of the so-called conspiracy theories, they're all been proven to be true. Now you can be anything you want to be. I mean, we've got a guy who identifies as a collie dog. Well, okay, I identify as a free man who is not subservient to the will of parasites masquerading as politicians who've just been running this whole climate scam. I perceive myself to be subservient only to God. So unless you can show me some contract you have with God which gave you possession of this vessel that I inhabit, then that's what I identify as. That's my gender. My gender is a free man who answers only to God and works to improve the reality that I'm in. Therefore, I am not subject to the will or dictates of corporate parasites masquerading as politicians. That's my gender. Yeah, I mean, you can be anything you want. What you've got to do, folks, is be so free that your very act of existence is a rebellion. And that was said by someone, I'm not sure who said it, but it's a great idea. Because now you have the opportunity to do it. I mean, we can be anything we want. Men can be women, women can be men can be dogs, men can be whatever, people can be whatever. You've got kids at school saying that they identify as a cat and wanting to put litter boxes in the school bathrooms. So, okay, I identify as a free man who answers only to God. That's what I identify as. So, if you choose to get in the way of that, well, that's an affront against my gender, because that is my gender. Isn't there hundreds and hundreds of genders? Can't I be anything I want? We can all do this, folks. We can take this as the opportunity it presents and just let the stupid people be stupid people, because ultimately they are. I mean, there's so many stupid people, folks, it's just ridiculous. But ultimately they are. And something else that they're doing, you might have noticed, is, and we talked about it, I think, on the last report, is this whole UFO thing that's going on. Disclosure. We've been waiting for since 1976, of course. And this is taking on a new turn as well. And there's been lots of really weird sightings and things, of course. You know, and lots of weird videos coming up. Some, of course, like this one, are obviously CGI. But then there's other ones that kind of look interesting. That's an interesting looking video, and there's a lot of stuff like this coming out. There's a lot of reports of UFOs in the sky and blah, blah, blah. And there are congressional hearings going on about disclosure and conversations that they've had with the extraterrestrials. And there was a video that came out of Paul Hellyer, who's the ex-Minister for Defence, I think, for Canada. And he was talking about documentation and conversations that have been had with the extraterrestrials and how they had actually given the governments of the world a bit of a timeline, a time limit on disclosure. You know, you've got to tell the people we're here and we'll give you this long to do it. And if you don't, we'll intervene. And now listen to what they're saying, and listen to what they're saying will save the world, because of course the aliens believe that climate change is real and that the world is overpopulated when it absolutely isn't. And this is the ultimatum they're basically delivering to the people, or Paul Hellyer is delivering to the people, to the council, and essentially to the people of the world. The words of the extraterrestrials. Have a listen to this.
If you'll indulge me, I'd like to read 2 pages from advice from the extraterrestrials. Yes, it's true that we have been in contact with your government and heads of power. It is also true that agreements have been made and kept secret from your people. It is also true that in the past, some of your people have lost their lives or have been badly hurt to protect the secret. Our hands had no part in this. We contacted your leaders because your planet is in grave trouble. Your leaders said the vast majority of your population wasn't ready for anything like us yet. So we made time agreements with your leaders as to when your people would be made aware of our presence. Your air, your water are contaminated. Your forests, jungles, trees, and plant life are dying. There are several breaks in your food chain. You have an overwhelming amount of nuclear and biological weapons, which include nuclear and biological contamination. Your planet is overpopulated. Warning, It is almost to the point of being too late, unless your people act. There are better ways of deriving energy and food needs without causing your planet any damage. Those in power are aware of this and have the capability of putting these methods into worldwide use. Those in power view it as a military and security threat. That upset me. You mean to tell me that the people in power have the ability to save and better the planet, and they aren't doing it? Amnesty. What do you mean? Complete amnesty to those in power, governments and leaders who have been suppressing the truth, that they can't be held liable for any past wrong deeds. It is the only way these leaders can come forward with the truth. It is necessary that you do this in order to work together and survive.
Yes, so we've got to provide amnesty for the ruling parasites and forgive them for everything that they've done, and that's the only way we're going to save the world from climate change. Can you see a problem with this narrative, folks? And look, I'm all for forgiveness. With everything that's been done, I've often said, I mean, sure, you want to rip the lungs out of these people. You look at people like, you know, Albo from Australia, or whatever his name is, Albo, I don't know, Anthony Albanese. You look at Justin Trudeau, Jacinda Ardern, Joe Biden, all these people. I mean, you get angry with what they've done, you want to rip their lungs out, but of course that's not the answer. And I don't want to hurt them. I don't want to be the one who condemns them to death. I don't want that karma. I don't want anything like that. I've often said, just get them all, put them on an island somewhere. You know, we can't ever trust these people again. You know, we can't look at what's happened to the world in the last 3.5 years and believe that simply by forgiving those that created this situation, we can entrust the remedy of this situation into their hands. I mean, these people created the problem deliberately. Sure, we can forgive them by not prosecuting them and sentencing them to death. I mean, they should all be prosecuted, absolutely, but should they be sentenced to death? Well, you know, it's not me to make that decision, and it's not you to make that decision. I mean, how willing are you to take a life? I'm not willing to take a life. I'm not willing to take anybody's life for any reason. Were they to be prosecuted and just placed somewhere out of harm's way, like Christmas Island, you put them all on an island, all these politicians, all these people who did this, all these media personalities, the bankers, all the people who ran this scam, Fauci, all of them, put them all on an island. Put a guard around that island so they can't leave, and leave them there. Forgive them. Forgive them in as much as you're not going to kill them or hurt them or harm them. You're just going to put them in a place where they can't harm anybody else, because obviously they can't be trusted. Even if they were to suddenly admit what they've done and apologise, well, they did it to begin with. So you're a psychopath. You can't be trusted. You know, you've parasitically leached off the world your entire life, and you're a parasite, you're a psychopath. No, you can't be trusted. Sure, we'll forgive what you've done and we'll put you somewhere where you can't do it again. I'd be happy with that. You know, I don't care. I don't want the karma of meting out judgment to another life, because it's not my place to do that. It's not anybody's place to do that. Oh, by the way, folks, I've opened up a channel on another platform. It's called Clout Hub. Clout Hub. Apparently it's going to be a pay thing where you've got to pay to have a channel or something eventually. I'm not sure how they're going to do it. But the reason I opened up a channel there, and I uploaded the last video, I'm going to upload this video to it as well, is because it's incorporating some AI thing, and yeah, I know, AI, but I mean, there are things we can use it for, but it's incorporating some particular algorithm into the server whereby you're going to be able to watch my videos in any language. It's going to include 72 different languages and 98 dialects. So it isn't up and running yet, but they're saying very soon they're going to put this algorithm in place. So, you know, if you're from Mexico, or you're from Russia, or you're from Lithuania, or anywhere, you're going to be able to go and click on my video on Clout Hub, and you're going to have it simultaneously translated in real time into whatever language you want. And I think that's a great thing, and this might be a way we can get the message out to a lot of people, you know, using their own tools against us. They're using AI against us, so we can use AI against them as well. We can create an AI platform that will be to our benefit and will help us share the message. So the guy who's done it, I don't even know the guy's name, but I saw an interview the other day. Someone sent me a link and said, hey, look at this is what's going on. And I thought, well, this is a great idea. 78 languages, or 72 languages, 98 dialects, Clout Hub. There's a link below. If you want to, you can go and sign up and subscribe to my channel on Clout Hub. You'll be able to watch the videos there as well. I uploaded one the other day. It was very, very quick. So I'd say it's they've got some decent funding behind their server. You know, and they're saying it's going to be free speech and whatever, you know, so, you know, hopefully it is. You know, I'll believe it all when I see it, but hey, it's just another way of getting the word out, so that's another thing to look at, folks, Clout Hub. But I think that's about all I have to say, folks. You know, we're heading for a really, really crazy time, you know, and it's up to us to stand up now. Like I said, be as free as you can. Don't depend on government coming to save you from government. Don't depend on the media reporting the corruption of the media. You know, what they're doing is, a lot of it is damage control. A lot of them, I mean, I'm sure, as I said before, some of them are actually waking up to the fact that they're going to be subservient to this as well, so they're kind of wanting to. But when you see what they're actually putting out, like I said, they're still pushing the concept that it was a bioweapon, escaped from a lab in China, and that COVID's real, and blah, blah, blah. COVID was never real. It's never been real. What was real was the jab. So, you know, there's a lot of stuff like this going on. And you can't depend on them to save you. Don't depend on government saving you. All these people are still waiting for Trump. I mean, you know, Trump is totally on board with all this stuff that is going on, folks. And remember, all of this, everything, the whole COVID scam, not only were they depopulating people, it was also a cover for the 5G system, so they could roll out all this surveillance grid for all this tracking and all this biometrics and all that shit they want to do. And Trump is totally on board with all the biometrics.
We'll finally complete the biometric entry-exit visa tracking system, which we need desperately. For years, Congress has required biometric entry-exit visa tracking systems, but it has never been completed. The politicians are all talk, no action, never happens, never happens. Hillary Clinton, all talk. Unfortunately, when there is action, it's always the wrong decision. Do you ever notice? In my administration, we will ensure that this system is in place. And I will tell you, it will be on land, it will be on sea, it will be in air. We will have a proper tracking system.
Yeah, so you can't trust this guy, folks. You can't depend on anyone working within government to save you from government. What we have to realise is that the whole concept of government and this whole concept of this authority that rules us is completely misplaced. These people are parasites. They've created the entire situation that we're in the world today, and the only remedy to that situation is us. And we can do it. We can do it by simply being who and what we are, remembering who and what we are, folks. Oh, by the way, this week, I think it's even tomorrow night, it might be very, very soon, Larkin Rose's movie Jones Plantation is going online. You can actually go and watch this for $20 and you can download it and have watch parties and all sorts of stuff. This is a movie that has been in the making for quite a while. I'm going to be there watching it, and I think it's going to be great for people to see. It's something you can share with people. It might, you know, break the mind control a little bit, get them to think a little bit outside the box. Larkin does great stuff. If you haven't seen his book, The Most Dangerous Superstition, which is actually a belief in authority, as I was mentioning before, that's a great book. He did a great little video called The Tiny Dot as well, which just demonstrated how much control we actually have compared to the system. And now this film, The Jones Plantation, is going to be out, I believe, tomorrow night, Friday night, and you should check it out. If you've got $20, I mean, it's worth spending it on this film. Give Larkin a little bit of money back that he spent on production for it. I mean, he lives very, very frugally, folks. He lives a very lean life, Larkin Rose, and he needs support. So go and check this film out, and it would be a good thing. Also, Acapulco is happening next year as well. This may even be the last one. I'm not sure. I was speaking to Jeff the other day. He loses a lot of money on these conferences and he's just wondering how long he can keep it up. So this may even be the last one. It's going to be a good conference, folks. There's going to be a lot of good names there. I'll be speaking there, of course. If you do want to get a ticket, tickets are on sale now. There'll be a link below to anacapulco.com. You can use my name, my last name, Egan, I-G-A-N, and that will get you a 10% discount on the ticket, the same as last year. It'll be better next year as well because I won't be running the bar. Last year, this year, with the last conference, I was actually running the bar when the conference was on and I was exhausted for the whole conference. It's the first year that I didn't actually hang out at the conference all day because generally I'm there all day. Every conference since 2016, I've been there all day and I've hung out with the people at night and blah, 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 caught up with a lot of people. But on the last conference, I was exhausted. I was only there when I did my talk. I was there maybe for twice on 2 other occasions for maybe 30 to 45 minutes at a time. And most nights I was just asleep. I was not well. I was completely run down. There were dozens of people there that wanted to catch up with me and I didn't have a chance to catch up with any of them because I was so sick and run down. So I'm definitely not going to do that again, folks. I'll be a lot more on the ball for the next conference. I won't be running the bar. The bar was a huge job, folks. Incredible time and effort went into running that place. And I knew I'd probably only have it for a couple of months anyway, but yeah. Also, I'm speaking in San Diego on, I believe, October 21st. This is an event that's been put on by Jason Brashears, archaics.com. He does all the work on timelines and stuff. Gets a lot of good press, gets a lot of bad press. But anyway, he's invited me to come and speak in San Diego on October 21st. I'm not sure where the venue is or how much it's going to cost, or I have absolutely no details at all. I've simply said, yeah, okay, I'll come. So, I mean, opportunity to go to the United States. I like San Diego, so it'd be nice to go and check it out. So that is definitely happening though, folks. October 21st. If you are anywhere near San Diego, you can come and catch up there as well. I'm going to be leaving next week for Thailand. I've got a conference in Koh Samui. This is a private conference. I've had a lot of people ask me for information about where I'm speaking and they want to come. It's a private conference though, folks. It's actually a birthday for someone. And for his 70th birthday, he wants to get all of his favourite speakers in and he wants to bring in some business bigwigs and a few people, a few movers and shakers who might not be aware of the information we share. And he wants to sort of try to present the information to them in a way that might crack the shell with some of these movers and shakers. And really it's perfect time to do it because of all the stuff that's been coming out in the media. I mean, they're telling us, like I said, 90% of the truth. They're misdirecting, but they're still giving us 90% of the truth, which is better than they've done any time in the last 3 years. So I'm going to be doing that next week. I'm going to be spending a couple of days very locally in the United States before I go, or a couple of nights, and then I'll be heading over to Thailand. I'll try to bring you a video from the United States and I'll try to bring you a video from Thailand, and then I'll be going on from there as well. I've actually been invited to speak in Croatia this year as well, so there's a chance that might happen at some stage. All sorts of stuff on the horizon, folks, and all sorts of possibilities. So who knows where I'll be and what I'll be doing. But there's a lot of stuff that I want to bring you, and there's a lot of information coming out. As I said, do go and sign up to that CloutHub server if you want. Go and sign up. It didn't cost anything to sign up and open a channel or open an account. So I just did that, and like I said, this translation software, simultaneous translation software, this is going to be huge if this comes to be. It's going to be great. I mean, to be able to have your videos translated in real time in 72 different languages, 98 different dialects, this is quite amazing sort of technology. And the fact that someone's got on board with this and wants to open up, you know, a truth and activist portal that totally supports free speech and will allow us to share this type of information, this is a great thing. So it's good to see, like I said, you know, using their tools, the tools they use against us, using the same tools against them. I mean, even with the whole concept of making videos and stuff, I mean, the reason I started making videos and making movies and stuff was because I thought, well, it's television and videos and stuff that's programmed everybody. Obviously, it's a great mind control tool and it programs people. So why can't we use that same tool to deprogram them? People like looking at screens, you know, they like looking at this stuff. They like to see little soundtracks, they like things to be moving and shifting, and they like to sort of be able to enter an altered reality and get swept away vicariously by the narrator of the film or by the hero in the film or whatever, you know. So why not use that as a means of deprogramming these people? So that's, you know, originally why I even started making videos. So, you know, there's a method to all of it, folks. Hola. I've just got to say hello to a friend. How are you? Good. Very good to see you. Good to see you, Max. So good to see you.
Good to see you.
A long time.
Yes.
How you been?
Yes.
I still have your wall.
Yes, I know that you take the wall out.
Yeah. And still chance I might open a new place as well. So just seeing what's happening. I'm going travelling over the next few weeks, and you know, a lot of just to get closure on a lot of stuff, and then see how I feel when I get back. Whether I actually want to start a new place. So yeah, good to see you. You look fantastic.
Thank you.
Cool.
We're gonna do a blessing way for the pregnancy Katina.
Oh, okay. Awesome. Beautiful.
Okay.
Good to see you.
Good to see you.
Oh, there you go, folks. That's the girl who painted the mural in the bar. So I was just talking about the bar. She painted the whole, you know, wall with the cat and the little boy with the lantern and all that sort of stuff. Really, really wonderful woman. So yeah, the people you run into, eh? So yeah, where was I? That's about all I have to say, I think, folks. Yeah, what else is there to say? No, that's about it, folks. I think I will leave it there. Thank you to everybody. The same thanks that I always give. It's wonderful to see so many people speaking out. It really is. It's a blessing, and it's such an honour to have been part of it. It's such an honour to get some of the emails that I get, and the people who say that I've inspired them to change and inspired them to speak out and help them understand what's going on here and kept them sane through all these lockdowns and all this bullshit. You know, it's so inspirational to get those sort of letters. It's so encouraging to get those sort of letters, because that's what it's all about. I mean, just to know that I've made a difference in some way, and people have picked up the torch and carried it forward and paid it forward. Thank you to all the people who send me kind emails. Thank you to anyone who's ever contributed. The same thanks that I always give, folks. But like I said, now's the time you can be free. I mean, think about it. Like I said, even with this language translation software and using the tools they use against us, against them, well, there's gender software as well, which is software. It's a program that they put in your head. This concept that there are more than two genders and that you can be anything you want to be. Well, like I said, okay, well, I identify as a free man under God. That's my gender. Are you telling me that isn't a gender? How do you know? How do you define gender? Apparently we can't define gender anymore. We can't define woman. We can't define man. We can't truly define gender. You are whatever you feel you are. Well, that's what I feel I am. I feel I'm someone who is answerable only to God, who needs to expose the criminal activities of parasites like you. So that's what I do. If you're going to judge me for that, well, that's up to you. Isn't that an infringement of my gender rights? You know, we can use the whole thing against them, folks. We really can. But anyway, I'm going to leave it there for now, folks. I won't carry on any further. I'll try to keep this video short. I'll look forward to speaking to you again soon. I might be able to bring you another video before next week. I don't know. If I don't bring you another one on Sunday, then you won't get another one out of me until maybe early next week, when I'll probably bring you one from the United States, and following that I will bring you one likely from Thailand. And I'll look forward to speaking to you then, folks. Please take very good care until then. In Lakesh.
And in hospitals today, they use charcoal for poisoning cases. One girl said to me, I had an overdose and they gave me a choice to have my stomach pumped out or take charcoal. She said I chose the charcoal. So charcoal absorbs and neutralises poisons. So it can be used internally and it can be used externally. Now charcoal doesn't have a taste. And you can use it if any poison has been ingested. And it can also be used if a person has diarrhea or gastric or bloating. The charcoal, when it's taken, will absorb and neutralise the poisons and can bring a lot of relief. So if ever I had a baby that had a bit of diarrhea, I'd give them a bit of charcoal. And when I got the black nappy, because I didn't use disposable nappy, I knew that my baby was well. Because once that charcoal goes through, it absorbs and neutralises the poisons. So you can use it internally and you can use it externally. You use it externally, again, for cases of poisoning. So it can be used for a bee sting, a ant bite, a snake bite. You don't have many snakes here. We have a few in Australia. Spider bites. Do you have spiders? Oh, maybe we don't need to talk about the chocolate. Wasps, bees, any sting, it's quite incredible. You almost have to experience it to believe it, that it takes the pain out straight away. And the reason it takes the pain out is because it absorbs and neutralises the poisons.